Welcome to Mocktails and Masterpieces with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. Today's episode is sponsored by Anthony Team Realty. The upcoming episode originally aired on December 8th, 2021.
Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another Mocktails and Masterpieces. I'm Matthew Kraemer, Music Director of the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. We are in the midst of holiday season, which for us at the ICO means we're preparing Handel's Messiah and Bach's Christmas Oratorio for presentation coming up this week, made even more special by the fact that we were unable to perform for you last year. So it's already been 2 years of this tradition being without this tradition. I'm delighted to be joined today by my colleague, Eric Schmidt, who is on faculty at DePaul University as Director of Choruses, and he's our wonderful chorus master for our upcoming performance. Great to see you, Eric. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Matthew, for having me here. Thanks.
We are delighted that you were able to join us for this project and preparing our singers. Could you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you came to be in Indiana from many different places on the map?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Germany and went to the United States in 2012 to get my doctorate in choral conducting at the University of Utah. So I lived in Salt Lake City for about 6 years. The first 4 years were dedicated to my studies at the U, and then I did 2 more years of freelancing over there before I then got the faculty position here at DePaul University in Greencastle, and then moved to Indiana in 2018. So it's been 3 years and some months now in the Hoosier State, and it's been really wonderful to explore, an area of this country that I never had on my radar before.
And so about your choral background, how did you come into the choral conducting? I understand that, you play, a couple of piano, including a couple of instruments, but then, you have an interesting story to share about how you became a choral conductor.
Right. So my original plan was to become a high school teacher in Germany for music and mathematics. In Germany, you need to have 2 subjects if you want to teach high school. So I went through the academic preparation for that. I got my bachelor's and master's in both music education and mathematics education. And my main instrument was a pianist, was the piano. But then once I joined some musical activities, I heard very good choirs for the first time in my life. I then joined very good chamber groups during my studies and just fell in love with that. And so by the end of my master's, I felt that I always felt I was more of a musician than a mathematician. So that's where eventually my passion really is and was. And I just became curious about this field and just wanted to learn more about it. And it then just happened that, you know how it is as a student, you just look for many different recordings, right, online, and on YouTube, there were just a lot of really good choir recordings from choirs in Utah. So that aroused my interest, and I then just went on a trip just for fun, reached out to the folks over there if I could just, swing by in some rehearsals and get some impressions to just broaden my horizon. And then 4 months later, I woke up in Salt Lake City, enrolled in my doctoral studies. And yeah, that was a very interesting and unexpected twist in my life that I've never regretted. And it's been a wonderful roller coaster ever since.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And like so many stories that we musicians share together, how one door opens and leads to another door, which opens for us. And, we look back 10 years later and we see all this journey and where it's taken us. So, and in Utah, then you've also, not just in the academic environment, but you also had considerable professional experience with the great Utah Symphony and Chorus there. Tell us about that.
That's correct. Yeah, I was very fortunate that my mentor, Barlow Bradford, who is the professor at the University of Utah, was also involved in many other professional activities and initially just tagged me along, right? He is the chorusmaster for the Utah Symphony. He has his own professional choir that is the Utah Chamber Artists. They also frequently are joined by a chamber orchestra. I myself also became a faculty member at the Madeline Choir School, which is one of the best children's choirs that we have in the United States. And the cathedral has a superb music program. So I was able to get my feet wet a little bit in this then before I more and more took over some own responsibilities then as times went by. which then led to some involvements in the Grand Teton Music Festival with Sir Donald Runnicles. Some other, I prepared was lucky to prepare some choirs for great international conductors that swung by at the Utah Symphony. And yeah, it was a wonderful mix of having just big symphonic choirs and also small chamber groups. There was a lot going on in Salt Lake City, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed being in this spectrum of different choral music there.
And your bio is very impressive. You list some of those large choral works you were describing, the Carmina Burano, Berlioz's Faust, Mahler Resurrection. So let's talk specifically about this program, because it is a very different genre of music. We're going back in time to Baroque music. But first of all, about these two pieces, Handel's Messiah has no shortage of performances, not only in this country, but around the world. I mean, it's been performed every year since it was first written, and even in the multiple versions of different arias that Handel had arranged for different performances. So this is one of those works, right up there with Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, which we just expect at this time of year, and there are other performances in the city as well. The Bach is a little less familiar to American audiences, although it's still widely performed. But I'm curious, as a German native, is there one of these works which is more popular in Germany at this time of year?
Yeah, it was very interesting to discover this here in the United States. I grew up with the Weihnachtsoratorium, so the Bach being played every Christmas season in Germany. It is pretty much what the Handel Messiah is for American audiences. The Weihnachtsoratorium is for German audiences. And interestingly, we focus on the Messiah more on the Easter part. So for me, Handel and the Hallelujah Chorus was always this quintessential Easter piece. I guess because mainly that Christmas part is already occupied by the Bach, which is of course in German, right? And the Handel, the Messiah, works much better in English. I'm totally convinced by that. But so, yeah, the Weihnachtsoratorium is vastly popular. Not lastly because many of those melodies, the tunes that Bach uses in the chorale, are just part of the German tradition, right? Every kid almost knows these tunes. I grew up with them, and they have been around for centuries, which is also why Bach picked them up, because they were just familiar to the audiences. So it is quite a popular work. Yeah, not easy to do though.
Oh, very true. We had done for so many years with the chamber orchestra the entire Messiah, but I felt very much, still continue to feel very much like you, that the Christmas portion is what is obviously appropriate for this time of year. Not that you can't do, and plenty of organizations do the entire thing, but the great the body of the second part, that the Easter portion of it, that's the core of Messiah, at least in my view. And so that we decided then to pair two cantatas from the Bach along with the Christmas portion of Messiah, which you'll hear this weekend. So let's talk about this repertoire, performing for instrumentalists, but certainly for vocalists, for singers. Baroque repertoire demands a different kind of style altogether, whether you're going full period performance style or just inflecting some of the nuances of period's performance style into interpretation. Talk about approaching Baroque vocal music versus, again, Berlioz, Mahler, etc.
Right. I would say the biggest challenge is that most Baroque composers treat the voice like any other instrument. So they write very intricate lines, all these long melismas that are fast, that are fairly easy to do on an instrument, and much more challenging to do this on the voice. So that's one of the main differences. Another thing that you of course have to pay attention to is to pair the articulation, pretty much, if you want to have a good Baroque score, it comes without any markings, right? Because there was that understanding back then in these times that musicians just knew what to do. To convey that to the group requires a lot of coordination. It requires a lot of work before the first rehearsal. This is what really unifies it. And of course, if you have a group with several singers, there is more work to do than just a smaller chamber orchestra. So that is one of the main differences. And then of course, stylistically, there are many different tastes, right? Some prefer less vibrato. Some say, well, vibrato, of course, was a natural occurrence, right, of the voice back then in Baroque as well. So that can be argued, but many times, especially if you have so many notes to cover in these melismas or so, the lines need to just be lighter than, let's say, if you sing in a Mahler symphony, right, where you have also a very different body of an orchestra with you that you have to not compete with, but make music together with. So, in other words, the texture or the is lightness, is that a word?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. You have to pay more attention to this for the music to just feel like this dance-like music. You know, Baroque music is dance to me, and that is the combination of many notes sung quickly but lightly is not easy at all.
You stated that perfectly. I mean, those are adjectives that I use in the description of this, because also to another point you made, it's about style and taste. And we all know that tastes can change. You go back, you know, to the 40s, 50s, and, you know, these enormous orchestra string sections that they had from Messiah. And everything was slow and plodding, and it just, you know, had a center of gravity to a very heavy weight to it. And then along comes the period performance movement, and everything becomes lighter, more dance-like. Textures are more transparent. Ornamentation is very crisp and very, very clean, and everything is text-driven. And so I find that these change in tastes, you know, are enlightening, really, to come back to pieces of music which we thought we knew, but then you hear it performed differently, and it sounds absolutely like a different piece altogether. Right. So talk to us a little bit about the Bach, since the Handel would be the piece people are most familiar with. But the Bach, you know, it's an oratorio, it says, but it's actually made up of different parts of it. We're performing 1 and 2, but I'll let you describe the work as a whole.
Sure. Yeah. So Bach wrote this Christmas, I believe you just call it Christmas cantata, right? The German word is Weihnachtsoratorium, which would mean a Christmas oratorio. So I guess there is a little distinction here. It consists of 6 different cantatas that Bach wrote for each of the 6 Sundays from, not the Sundays, but the first few Christmas days, all the way then through Epiphany. Is that how you call that in English? But it is pretty evident that the way how Bach just conceptualized this piece, that all of these cantatas build a cohesive unit. So each cantata is about 20-25 minutes long. Of course, how do you say that? I mean, Bach wrote many cantatas, right, for every Sunday when he was in Leipzig. And so he's following that tradition. However, of course, the significance of this holiday may have inspired him to do a bigger work that consists of all of these single elements.
And it's a staggering fact with Bach, if you think of the workload that he had in his life, the size of his family that he went home to every day, he was able to generate this wealth of music. Of course, Mozart in his short lifetime was able to do a great amount of work. But with Bach, I just imagine, like you mentioned, the writing the cantatas for every week. And then, of course, we have the great St. Matthew's Passion, St. John's Passion, B minor Mass. I mean, just some staggering works, and really the pinnacle of the Baroque era. So in your career, you're working now with, please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say it is absolutely mind-blowing indeed. And we mustn't forget that in addition to, you know, his big family that he had and all his obligations as a performer, he also had his tasks at the school that he was teaching at, right? He had to do Latin classes, or he had to just be a supervisor. And I just recently read again that some of his duties included, he had to swing by at the, how do you call that, the place where some sick students are, right? If they are just have the flu or whatnot, that he had to make sure that other students don't sneak in there and just kind of use that as an excuse to then just, you know, have a drink or so. So he had all sorts of additional tasks that I can't imagine how busy his life must have been.
Mm-hmm. So specifically in your career now, working with college students, but then also the professional world. So tell us a little bit about you know, the rehearsal process here, working with professionals. For the orchestra, we come together. We'll meet on Wednesday night, which was last night, and then we'll rehearse with the chorus. But then we'll also have you know, 2 more rehearsals, one of which includes dress. So Eric, is to say, it all comes very together for the instrumentalists. As a choral conductor, you begin much earlier than that. Tell us about the rehearsal process, getting these singers ready.
Right. One of the biggest parts there is the communication with everyone, because usually for these kind of project groups, we have singers from all sorts of different pools, if you want, and to bring these together can be a challenging project there, especially for someone like me coming into this for the first time into this Indianapolis bubble, not knowing anyone. That was a wonderful experience, but also time consuming. And then it depends on the group, but for a choir, of course, needs some kind of experience of singing together as well to really find the group sound, if you want, especially if the singers don't know each other, if they come from all of these different bubbles. It just takes a while to get a feeling for this. Other than that, if you work on the professional level, I mean, it is expected that they come with the music learned as well. However, I will say that there is a difference if, let's say, you have your oboe line and you just play the oboe line. That might be a little bit easier than you have the vocal line, and you are just expected to just fit right in, because singers just need each other more so than instrumentalists, I would say, because they on an oboe, the tuning that you have to worry about is only within this frame, right? But singers have to adjust their tuning much more to others around them. And the diction has to be more unified. So in other words, there are many more parameters that just have to be unified that require rehearsal time and therefore coordination.
Well, thank you for that, Eric. And I'm just overjoyed that you were able to join us in your busy schedule, helping prepare this weekend's performance. Two great beloved classics this time of year, certainly, but any time of year, Bach's Christmas Oratorio and Handel's Messiah. We look forward to our performance. We're hoping all of you who are tuning in are able to join us 3 o'clock this Sunday at Indiana Landmarks. Eric, great to spend some time chatting with you.
Likewise, thanks very much for having me. I'm very much looking forward for the performances.
Thanks, everyone.